So, you need just a little bit of help aiming for weak points in Project CW. This video is here to help you out. Just kind of give a basic overview of weak points for every vehicle in this game. And we'll start off with a Raketa. Alright, let's go over Raketa weak spots. So, frontally, Raketa has a pretty big weak spot for the fuel tank on the left side whenever you're aiming at them. This is pretty easy to hit as it also extends into their hull. You also have the side ammo rack. This is present on both sides of the vehicle, left and right side. You kind of just aim under the turret ring and you'll be able to hit the ammo rack pretty easily. You also have the frontal weak spot, which can hit both the engine and the ammo rack. I think the engine is an accidental thing, but you can 100% consistently hit the ammo rack frontally on a Raketa, just like that. And then you also have the rear weak spot on the turret. This is going to be another ammo rack spot. It's going to be more on the leftish side than anything. You also have the engine, and I think most people know about the engine weak spot. It's pretty obvious. Alright, for our next vehicle, we are going to go over Kent. Kent has weak spots everywhere on its vehicle. The most notable ones are the fuel tanks in the front. These are both on the left and right side of the vehicle. There is also the ammo rack on the right and left side underneath the turret where the turret meets the hull. This is another pretty easy to hit weak point. You don't need a bunch of module damage in order to crack those weak spots. You also can hit the fuel tanks from the side of the vehicle. Again, that ammo rack is pretty nasty. The whole sides of this vehicle are essentially weak spots. You also have the turret weak spots where essentially the whole back of the turret's just ammo. You have the engine. The engine deck is pretty big. It kind of extends halfway past the vehicle. You can see here it's a pretty large engine deck. Now let's go over Reaper. For Reaper, most of the critical weak spots are on the upper hull along a little bit below the turret. You also have the weak spots behind, kind of like where the fuel tank, where it looks like there would be fuel tanks. And then there's also the big engine weak spot. For Reaper, a lot of the weak points are going to be just slightly above the track line. There's also the crew knockout at the front cheeks of each of the turret. So each cheek, you can knock out the crew on the Reaper. And then let's go over Akira real quick, since Akira's changes, the modules on the turret are very, very inconsistent to hit. It's not even worthwhile going for the turret modules. It's better to go for the whole modules now. So for Akira, the ammo rack is on both the left and right side of the hull at the very front. You're going to want to get the side, not the front of the vehicle, to pop those ammo racks. There's also the rear fuel tanks. These are indicated by like the little coolers with liquid in it. You'll see them swing around in-game. The engine bay is pretty easy to see. As you can see, the fans on top of it pretty easily. But for the turret weak spots, there's no point in even going for them anymore, as they're too inconsistent to hit. It's just better for you to go for the whole weak spots now than anything else. Let's go over the Titan. Unfortunately, the Titan does have weak spots frontally in the lower hull. Left and right side are ammo racks. Not super common to be hit. Left and right side, where the Titan is on the side of the vehicle, are ammo racks as well. It's the middle section of the vehicle more than anything else. Back section, kind of marked by the backpack on one side, is the fuel tank. This is pretty easy to hit. The engine deck, with the Titan, getting criticals on the engine is a little bit more difficult since the Titan generally has perks to help out with the engine criticals. and also just has higher module health on the engine. Let's go over Punch now. Punch has, like many other vehicles, has the side weak point. This is going to be an ammo rack for Punch. Punch also has the turret weak spot. So back of the turret, side of the turret. This is the Kent turret minus the like autoloader. So very similar to ammo racket. Fuel tanks, you're gonna be looking for the little boxes on the top of the engine deck. They are pretty easy to hit. Engine itself, not so easy. Now for the chopper, you're only going to want to be hitting this lower plate when a chopper is cresting a hill, and then you might hit the ammo rack, but most of the time you're going to be shooting the side of a chopper. This is going to hit the ammo and usually the fuel tank as well. If they are overly angling, it also gives you the opportunity to hit both weak spots again. So this is why it's very important if you are playing the chopper to always face your front towards the enemy. Otherwise, you might get smacked in a weak point and not even realize it. Frontally as well, you know, not so much a weak point, but you're going to want to aim for either underneath the turret or the gun of the vehicle itself if you're just having a struggle hitting it. Top of the vehicle, if you do see the top, you're going to aim for the back. That's the ammo rack with the blow-up panels. Back of the vehicle, you're going to want to aim for the like track segments on the turret for the ammo rack. Fuel tank is on the bottom section of the engine bay, and then if you're trying to hit the actual engine, you're going to want to aim for the top of the engine bay, or if you're behind the vehicle, directly down the middle. For the Uteranic has a fuel tank up front, kind of like the Raketa. It's on the left side. Unlike the Raketa, it doesn't go all the way along the side of the vehicle, so it is just a frontal fuel tank. Like the Raketa as well, the Uteranic has a front ammo rack. It's on the opposite side of the vehicle, and instead of the left side of the turret, it's the right side of the turret now. It's a little bit more consistent to go for the fuel tank than the ammo rack, as you're going to need high module damage for the ammo rack on the front. Left and right side of the vehicle, center mass, you'll get the ammo rack. If you're going for the engine, it's not all the way in the back. It's kind of like right behind the turret. If you aim too far back, you won't get any critical hit. But yeah, there's also the turret weak spot. So when you do get behind a Uteranic, you're going to want to be aiming for the left side of the turret, as this is where the ammo is. If you aim for the right side, you're not going to hit any ammo at all. You're going to want to make sure you go for the left side of the turret if you do get behind a Uteranic. Let's go over the Atom. A lot of people struggle frontally against the Atom. When you are frontal against the Atom, on the left and right side, you'll notice these little containers. They'll make it kind of easy to hit and penetrate the Atom. There is the little T section and driver's hatch as well, but they're not as consistent and can sometimes bounce as well, especially if they're wiggling. It's a lot easier to aim for these boxes as they're a flat surface, which makes penetrating them quite easy. This box is the fuel tank, not the cylinders. The cylinders actually represent where the engine is, which is a little surprising to me. Underneath the turret, this turret ring is the ammo rack. It is, for me at least, a little bit more consistent getting those ammo racks compared to the back of the turret. The back of the turret can also be a little bit trolly, and sometimes you'll bounce it if you hit it at the wrong angle, especially if you're trying to boost around an Atom and they're turning their turret at the same time. It can make things a little difficult. Jaeger and Blitz shared pretty much the same platform, but I'll go over both of them. Frontally, Jaeger, if you aim for the right side, you'll most likely hit the ammo rack. It's better to aim for this, even if you're not always guaranteed to ammo rack the vehicle. Just in case you do ammo rack, it's preferred. Whole left side of the vehicle is kind of just a weak point. Back is the engine and fuel. Midsection is the ammo rack. Back half of the turret is also ammo rack. It's the same on the Blitz. Underneath the turret is also going to be an ammo rack thing. It kind of has ammo racks everywhere. Let's go over the Blitz real quick too, since they're very similar. For the Blitz, same frontal ammo rack. It's not as consistently penned and destroyed as on a Jaeger, so it's not going to happen all the time, kind of like on a Jaeger. But the whole left side of the vehicle, just like on the Jaeger, is just kind of one big weak point, and the left back half of the turret is also a weak point. So underneath the turret is the ammo, kind of where it slopes up to the engine bay is the fuel. For the engine bay, if you're trying to actually damage the engine, you're going to want to go under the little triangle shield. Back half of the turret, again, ammo rack. Kind of aim for the cross on the turret and you'll mostly hit the ammo rack. Fuel's not hard to hit. Like I said, it's that like slope section up to the engine bay. Alright, let's go over Ray real quick. So I'm not going to show any additional video for Ray or HSTVL. They're pretty short. Ray engine is up front and also side front as well. Pretty easy to hit. If you hit the front side of the Ray, you'll either hit the engine or the fuel tank. If a Ray is looking at you and say they're reversed, you can aim for the turret. Almost the whole turret is an ammo rack. If you do see a Ray and you get behind them, it's better to aim for the turret than the hull, as the back of the Ray isn't really a weak point. HSTVL, you don't see them too often, but the front of the vehicle, you're not going to want to shoot too much. It can auto-ricochet if you're aiming for weak points. You're going to want to go for the back of the vehicle, the back of the turret. The back half is going to be your fuel and engine. Overall, as long as you have a big gun, you don't have to worry too much about the HSTVL. Phantom is kind of like the Akira, except the weak point on the turret is actually damageable. So if you get behind a Phantom and you aim for the turret, you can kind of see where it stops angling upwards and kind of just becomes flat. That's where the ammo is. Also has the same hull weak points as the Akira, so the front's going to be the ammo rack. That little hexagon, little trapezoid that pokes out is your fuel tank, and the engine bay is kind of easy to see, so it's not too hard to hit. But yeah, that's kind of just like a basic rundown of where you should be aiming in this game to get critical hits and destroy weak points. Have a good one. Goodbye.